even when I'm down. Got my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground. I got big dreams, gonna make them. Yeah, we got big dreams here at the Genius Lab. This is Toby, your self-empowerment trainer. And I am so happy you're back here. We are going to work on some cool stuff today. The last two podcasts have been about releasing your shit, or I take that back, inventorying your shit, kind of getting clear about what it is, and then also inventorying your greatness, okay? Getting down with how great you are. And, it's good. Sometimes these things, therapeutic stuff gets one-sided. You think about all the times you screwed up and you work on your flaws and character defects, and you forget to acknowledge the greatness that you are because, hey, we all fuck up, right? And then sometimes we got to just like pull our heads out of our asses and realize that there's a greatness there too. So one of the things we talked about a bunch of different ways. We did the climb the mountain visualization, which I love. I do that thing all the time. It's a great way to get rid of your shit and reclaim your power. Coming down the mountain over and over and over again. I never get tired of it. It's such a beautiful thing. So what I'd like to do now in this episode is I'm going to give you some other methods of release that work. Okay? There's a lot of I've experienced a lot of different things. I've studied a lot of different cultures, a lot of different spiritual paths, and I've been so grateful to have some really good teachers. And I'm going to share some of the things with you that different cultures use to eradicate the shit and claim their power, and ways that they connect to helpful energy. And so let's just get started. The first thing I want to talk about is something called, it's from the Dogra culture. It's called an ancestor shrine. And because their cosmology is built around the understanding that those who have come before you keep an eye on you, and they help you from the other world. Everybody in the village has an ancestor shrine. It's like the gateway to, the phone booth to the emergency room, right? Where the ancestors will help you and you talk to them and ask them for help and thank them for help and so on and so forth. Remember in the first part of the book, I talked to you about things that are not your fault. And we talked about your DNA, and those are the ancestral imprints. The things that your ancestors didn't deal with that you get to deal with now, and the way that we help to resolve those things is through the ancestor shrine. So this is a very, very easy setup. You basically use, I'll bet, most of the people listening actually have pictures of your ancestors around your house. But then an ancestor shrine has a red cloth on it, at least one red candle. I think I have two on mine. And then pictures of your ancestors. Make sure that in the pictures, if there is a group photo or photos of your ancestors with someone else, make sure that other person is also passed away before you put it on the ancestor shrine. It's very important not to have living people on your ancestor shrine. So we don't want to send anybody to the ancestors. So anyway, you put pictures there, and then basically when you light the candles, it's like dialing the phone number for the ancestors, and you can talk to them, and you can complain about shit that's going on in your life and why things aren't happening better. You can tell them about the things you need, and on and on and on. And then the thing that I also, that sometimes we get so caught up in our problems, we forget about our gratitude. And so one of the things that I would also recommend is that you express gratitude. Thank them for the things that they have done in your life. And when you get done talking, you blow the candles out. That's like hanging up the phone, and off you go. Now, I was talking to a group, and there were some people that were from a more conservative kind of Christian-based organization, and they're like, well, isn't that worshiping demons and blah, blah, blah. And I said, have you ever walked into a Catholic church? And they said, yeah, we are Catholic. And I said, what's inside the door? And they stopped, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Almost every Catholic church has a shrine, and a lot of them use red candle holders, and you light a candle for the dead. So it's a very, very similar practice to what the Dagara do. They've just perfected it a little more, but basically there's nothing satanic about it and there's nothing demonic about it. It is exactly honoring the dead in the same way that that is done in the Catholic Church and maybe others. I'm not familiar with other churches, but I know that many Christian organizations use the fire to represent the light, which is the connection to the divine, and that's exactly what it is for the Dagara people as well. So the second the second method of release, so that's one way to release your shit, is talk to the ancestors and give it to them and ask them to help you maneuver in this world through their spiritual gifts and help. Okay, another is called the grief release process. And, it's so interesting that grief in our culture is it's like a taboo thing. It's like people tell you to keep your emotions in. Kids start crying and the parents grab them and shh, be quiet. Don't talk, don't cry, don't show your emotion. And, we're getting better at that. Pardon me. But it's very important to allow yourself to express grief. And here is a way that allows you to express it that actually is a solution-oriented exercise to psychology. Okay, so all the psychotherapists out there are going, hey man, don't diss us. Okay, don't worry about that. Okay, I'm going to tell you one thing though. I have had tremendous breakthrough help through psychotherapy, and it has been very helpful in certain ways. However, fundamentally, it is massively flawed in that you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about the stuff, but you never do anything with the stuff, which is why people are whining and crying about their mother or their family or their sister or whatever for fucking years. Right? How long have you been in therapy for your mother? 25 years. If you're in therapy more than 5 sessions, you're fucked up and that thing isn't working. Okay. So get real. This will work. Okay. Because this is not just a place for you to talk. It's a place for you to talk and dump your shit. Okay. So what you're going to do, it's called I call it the grief relief process because some people get freaked out about shrines, but basically Dagara style, African style, they call it a personal grief shrine. And what it is you take a black or a blue cloth, and then you put a black or a blue bowl. The reason you use black or blue is because that is the color that's associated with the element of water. And water is the element of healing and reconciliation. So you see that we're setting up. I've talked in the past a lot about congruence, how all the things that you have that work together make you more powerful. So when you use a black or a blue cloth and a black or a blue bowl, you're accelerating the power of water. And then you fill the bowl with water, and then you take salt and you put salt in the water. Now, salt is the element of mineral. And mineral is the element that holds the stories. Okay? And in the Dagara tradition, the stones and the crystals and those sorts of things hold information. Isn't it interesting that Marcel Vogel, who worked for IBM, used crystal as memory chips for the very first computers. It's so interesting how things from different cultures all kind of mix together in a cool way. So in the Dagara tradition, mineral is the element that holds the stories. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to dissolve as much salt as you can into the water, into the black or blue bowl. You're going to have a white candle on either side of the bowl. Only white candles, okay? That's really important. So, because white is the color of mineral. Okay, so we have water, which is healing and reconciliation. We have mineral, which is going to hold the story. So basically what we're doing with this process is you're taking the grief, whatever it is, the grief and sadness. Remember, it's called a personal grief shrine. This is used to eradicate grief.
So you take your story, you take your thing you're grieving, your loss, your assault, whatever it is. And trust me, in my years of therapy, I've worked with people that I wish I didn't know the things that they had to go through. They were so horrific. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of stuff and helped people through this process with this exact tool. This really works. Okay, so what you do is you light the candles, and then you dissolve the salt in the water, and then you light the candles, and then you basically just cut loose. When the emotion comes up, you light the candles, you come into the shrine. Lit candles means open for business. Candles blown out, it's totally fine. A lot of people get freaked out. Like, what if I have all that negative energy in the bowl? Well, the salt's holding it for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Okay? If you don't like it, go dump it out and then refill it when you need it again. But you don't have to. That salt can hold a lot of stories and a lot of your grief. So you go, you cry, you scream, you cuss, you do whatever, spit, growl, whatever it is that expresses your grief. And you just dump it into the bowl. It's like throwing up in the toilet, right? You don't look or think about what's coming out. You just know you have to get that shit out of your body. Okay? And then what do? Leave it in there? Hell no. First thing you do is you flush that toilet. I just knocked my lamp. That was pretty good. And you flush the toilet, and all of the crap that came out of your mouth, out of your body, goes away. And that's exactly what happens with this personal grief shrine. You scream, cry, yell, whatever it is, however it is you express your grief. And then when you blow the candles out, it's over. Most of the time, grief comes in waves, particularly horrific loss or incident, okay, or majorly traumatic incident. So what I recommend is people keep this when something happens. And grief is up for you. This is something you want to leave up and accessible. You want to have it in a place where you're completely private and you're not going to worry about anybody hearing you. Okay? You need to be able to just let your shit go. Rip it out, baby. Just scream, yell, do whatever you got to do. So your safety is really important, and to feel as though you will be not judged by yourself or others is also a really big part of this. So you go yell, scream, cry, boom, blow the candles out, business is over. And then all of a sudden, let's say an hour or two later, you start to feel the grief again, right? Go light the candles, scream, cry, do it again, and you just keep doing it. And basically what you're doing is you're downloading all of that grief. And what happens is when we have a traumatic episode or something that triggers our personal grief, oftentimes that will stir up grief from other things that we don't even know. I remember doing a grief ritual, a community grief ritual, which is something a little bit different, but the same principle, the week after 9/11. And people were crying and sobbing and going up to the grief shrine. And I remember people coming up to me going, I don't even know why I'm crying so hard. And what was happening is people were connecting to the collective grief. Okay. The grief in our society that people were not expressing had an opening through this grief ritual that we did. And so people were expressing grief not from a linear mental, I am grieving about this thing. They just were crying and sobbing so that they could relieve the collective grief that was in our psyche, in our country's psyche at that time. So anyway, that's your personal grief shrine. And so sometimes you'll know what you're grieving about, sometimes you won't. But the thing is, keep at it. When those emotions come up, give them a place to go. Download it from your body into the bowl, into the salt. Let the salt hold the story and the water bring the healing to the story. Okay? It is profoundly healing, profoundly life-changing. Okay? And so that's the grief shrine. Next is a fire ceremony. Now, the fire ceremony is like everybody does fire ceremonies. You know, any organization I've ever been with that's any kind of alternative spiritual thing, they always do fire ceremonies. They usually do it in a little different way, but it doesn't matter. Bottom line is this is something that most of you will probably have participated in and will definitely understand. It is one of the more complicated rituals for release simply because you have to have a place to have fire. However, I have seen people get really creative. I've seen them take their barbecue grill and build a fire in it, and because they live in an apartment, and so they build a little fire out on their deck. I've also seen people use tin cans and candles. So you can get real creative. But basically, if you have a place to build a big fire, that is ideal. Okay. But basically what you do is you build a fire, and while the fire's heating up, because you want a good hot fire, lots of flame, lots of coal, you want to have some hot shit there to burn up your stuff. And then take some time with either you, or if you're doing it in a group, this is an easy group exercise. You write down the things that you are ready to release, that you want the fire to burn up and consume and eradicate. Okay? And so write those down on one piece of paper. And be as honest as you can. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to proclaim it to anybody. Sometimes in crowds, people get shy about expressing things that have happened to them. And so be as thorough as possible. Okay? And then on another piece of paper, I want you to write all the stuff that you need help with. I need more money. I need a better job. I need a promotion. I need better health. Whatever it is that you need help with, that's what you write on the second piece of paper. When the fire's roaring, you approach the fire with a declaration of, I give this to the fire, to the element of fire, to consume so that it is out of my life and over with. Okay? And remember, if you burn a picture of a person. This happens a lot with relationship breakups. People bring, I got a picture of that fucker and I'm going to burn him up. Yeah, no, you're not burning up the person, okay? You get very clear on that. We don't do that kind of black magic shit. But we're not burning the person, we're burning the relationship. And that's what that person represents. So you want to be very clear on that, because we don't want to hurt anybody. We just want you to not have to have grief and problems. If somebody offended you or hurt you in some way, we want to eradicate the thing that happened. We don't want to get into executing people. So if you burn a picture of someone, make sure that you are very clear that you are burning the relationship, that it is not necessarily the person. Okay, so that's that. So the first piece of paper, things you want to get rid of, you make the declaration that this is to the fire, to eradicate, to burn, to use as fuel, so that your pain and your suffering becomes fuel for the fire and is relieved from you. Okay, watch the paper burn completely. And then your next step is then step back from the fire. The second one is you make a proclamation of asking for the fire to fuel this next request. First one is to burn up and consume. This one is to fuel and expand. And it's really, really powerful. And so that's the fire ceremony. Watch the paper be completely consumed. Realize that the element of fire, which is inspiration, passion, clear vision, and spiritual connection, is taking those things and is connecting them to your spiritual resources so that you can receive help and expansion on those things. Okay, and oh my God, I'm going late today. Sorry about that. Okay, last one is called Talk to the Rock. And this is really easy. We've already talked about the element of mineral and how it's the holder of the stories. And so what this is years ago, you used to be able to buy in the little alternative stores, they used to sell these things called worry stones, and they were smooth little river stones. And the idea is you carry them in your pocket, and when you get stressed, you take out and put it between your forefinger and your thumb, and you rub it, and it relieves the stress. It creates a state of relaxation. So basically, this is a similar thing, except what we're doing is we're using the rock like a thumb drive. Take a small stone, something that you can carry comfortably, when you are having a time of distress, carry that stone with you all the time. And when the irritant presents itself, you simply give it to the stone. You know, I'm really fucking pissed off at this guy because they hurt me or they screwed me over or they took advantage of me or whatever. And then that might trigger another memory of something else. And you keep giving these stories to the stone. And basically what you're doing, if you think of your own body as a mainframe computer and that stone as like a thumb drive, you're plugging the thumb drive in by holding the stone, and then you're speaking into the stone, which is downloading it from the mainframe onto the thumb drive. And then, after you've carried the stone around for a week or so, find a place where you can dispose of the stone where you'll never find it again. I always find it's very easy if you can find a body of water, a river or a lake, and just huck that thing out there, and you'll never, ever find it or see it again. Do it into a field, whatever. But then you eradicate that stone, and then you're cool. I have watched amazing transformations happen from people using this simple ritual. And it's just talking to the rock, downloading your story from your body into the stone. The thing that's really key is once you give your story away, it is no longer yours, and it is no longer yours to talk about. So these are some out-of-the-box ideas, and but you know, depending on your belief system, you know, these might fit or might not. It's interesting that in another Christian ritual is in some organizations. I believe this is Catholic. I don't know what other denominations do this, but you know, we have a ritual. People have a ritual where once a week they go in and do confession. And if you think about that, they talk to the priest, they dump their shit. Then they pray, they do their Hail Marys and Our Fathers to eradicate to make up for the sin, whatever it was, which is them claiming their power. And then off they go. Everything's clear. They dump their shit, they claim their power. That's very similar to what talking to the rock is, except you're talking to the rock, not talking to the priest. So there it is. I hope these things are helpful for you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, Toby at tobychristensen.com. And I hope you have a fantastic day and keep looking up.